G'day there folks, and welcome back to the channel. You're catching me from in the middle of nowhere now, and we're going to be doing our first compilation video this week, so strap in and hope you enjoy the ride. So this week we'll be taking a look at some of the videos that I've been making for TikTok, which I've been calling my patent corners. Now the things that I love about these is it gives me a chance to look at modern technologies and the historical technologies that they came from. So we'll dive into our first three today. There should be electric cars for you, there should be grinding lenses, there should be the daisy wheels from electric typewriters, and in future I might do some bigger deep dives and show you some of the things I want to make based on these old patents, because sometimes something was patented as an idea but it wasn't efficient, it wasn't something that they could do with the technology of the time, and so we could do that today with our modern technology. G'day there folks, and welcome back to Patent Corner. Today we're going to be looking at something a little bit special because I've got a new toy. Let's take a look. Now this is a Brother, brand AX24 electronic typewriter, and it's got a really interesting component in here that we're going to look at the history of and talk about some of its modern variants. So if we take a look inside, just got this the other day for $10, very nice. Pull this little lever here, bring back the carriage, and we have, what is that? A daisy wheel. Now these are all the individual little letters, and when this is in, the electronic typewriter selects, lock that back into place, and the hammer presses each individual piece of type up against, through the ribbon onto the paper, and get a little bit of a, there we are, very nice sounds. So we're going to talk about the history of the patent, what became of it, and some interesting future variations that I might do to turn this into something a little bit more, not necessarily interesting, but cool for me anyway. So the first variation that we ever get on the daisy wheel in patent form is from 1885 by John Andrew Cayley. Now this is a typewriter, and we can see up there just peeking out is that daisy wheel. Now this would have been mechanically actioned and would have rotated that wheel so that any of the letters lined up. Now, if we take a look at the drawings for his daisy wheel there, we can see we've got both, looks like some upper and lowercase letters, and registrations on the inside. This would have been made out of metal at the time. However, more modern variations on the daisy wheel use plastic in the same way. Let me pull this out again for you here. But there we are. So these little plastic fins. Now, that is an extremely efficient way. You sort of have your single hammer and your multiple pieces of type. Like here, where you've got your hammer and your single piece of type from the daisy wheel. And you can see the little V-notch in there, which we do have in here as well. Now, is a lot more efficient because you've only got the one moving part, and all you have to do is index and rotate that wheel. The IBM Selectric goes on to have that sort of same functionality. I will interject here to say that we received some comments on one of our TikTok videos explaining that the daisy wheel was actually after the IBM Selectric. This is one of the whole reasons I want to be making these videos, is because I want to learn more about all of these technologies and be able to get more information. So thank you to Vano, I think that it was. This is interesting because the IBM Selectric was actually mostly mechanical but electrically powered, whereas the daisy wheels that came after the electric daisy wheels required a bit more complex computation. So it's really interesting to see that even though mechanical daisy wheels did exist beforehand, that the Selectric was actually before the daisy wheel in terms of that progress. We'll be doing some more videos in the future on the history of these typewriters, and want to show some of the projects I want to do in the future involving these technologies. On another note, if any of the listeners and watchers are interested, this audio was recorded in a tent, so if it happens to be better than the usual stuff, you may do that in the future. But the ball itself is the hammer that moves back and forth and has all the type pieces. So this goes through being a traditional typewriter, which has all of the individual arms, to the daisy wheel, to then becoming the best version for electronic typewriters, to eventually becoming the IBM Selectric, which eventually becomes obviously just full digital printing, typefacing, or just computers with word processing units and stuff on them. So this is the sort of the pinnacle of what that got to. Now, in terms of project, so this is an interesting machine, and I've got some ideas for what I would like to do to give it just a little bit more fit into the vibe and the aesthetic of all the other things we're doing while keeping its functionality. Now, I've got some ribbon ordered, which will go through here and allow me to actually use this to type, because all of the mechanics seem to be still functioning. But there are a couple things that I want to try. So number one is if I can work out a way to either injection mold or just cast, or maybe even 3D printing, it depends, my own daisy wheels, I could design new typefaces to work with the machine, which I think would be really fun to do. On the other hand, while I respect the history and the aesthetics of these things, I do think there is a lot of space here for me to practice some of my techniques of providing a more sort of aesthetic casing to these, going through and doing maybe veneering, maybe replacing like this typesetting ruler up here, designing that out in something like Illustrator, engraving it onto a piece of brass, putting that across, doing something with the handles on the sides, maybe replacing the roller in there, just because there are a few places that appear to be cracked, and even maybe looking at adjusting the type keys, the keycaps and stuff, just to make something that could fit together. And if I can work out how to make daisy wheels, or even just collect daisy wheels, being able to have a compartment or a stack built of them so that you can sort of pull them out like floppy disks. But as it stands, one of my key things is I want to go through and I want to do a good cleanup, because this is obviously seen a little bit worse for wear. And then after that, get some ribbon in it, practice typing, because it's incredibly sensitive. You cannot hit two keys at the same time, otherwise they will go off. So finding the ribbon, practicing my typing skills, and then maybe doing some overhauls and providing some really interesting design aspects to this, because I would like to make, and this is the thing, a sort of a mechanical entire desk office loadout. So, PC, typewriter, printer, hard drives, projector, everything that you could require for doing work and stuff, but all fit into the same aesthetic, built into that sort of arcane, steampunky kind of style. So this, I feel kind of confident in, if I can ask folks who do functional, interesting technology, things like, like the Smuggler's Room on YouTube. They do really awesome stuff with their sci-fi props. But also there are folks out there who obviously work in the tech spheres and who do obviously their custom keyboards or custom everything. So I'm hoping to get this as a bit of a project. So that is it today for Pattern Corner. We talked about the history of the daisy wheel, where that came up to, what are some of the things I might want to do with this project, and I hope that you enjoyed, and I hope that you come along. We'll be doing a lot more Pattern Corners, I think, coming up, talking about some of the interesting and amazing things in the world of technology that are always around us. So design that started in 1880 that's come up to today. G'day folks, and welcome back to Pattern Corner. Today we'll be looking at lenses. I said that I'd talk on these last time, and it was hard to find patents for the original production of lenses, because these were being hand ground before patents were majorly a thing. However, I did manage to find a invention from 1920 by Alexander Robertson and Frank Voll, which details an invention that creates a new method of making lenses. And that's something that I want us to touch on, because look at this thing. Just look at it. So in this side view, it's a little easier to see. So these guys were from actually North Sydney, New South Wales, Australia. And what they have created is, we've got these spindles and these other bits here, and we can see how there's that sort of, that dipped surface there. What would be done is that a piece of glass would be taken of a size, it would be put down here, and by the rotation of the top bits, it would spin, and this would swing back and forth. And because of the arc of that spin and the movement of this against the grinding plate or the other piece of glass, such as right here, we can see, you know, flat against flat. If you grind a piece of, where are we? Normal glass, so 2 square glass on that angle, pivoting back and forth, what you'll get is it will cut the same divots into those as they're spinning around. There's also other forms you can use at a braiding plate. You can use closer angles, make deeper lenses, almost spherical, and all of those other types there. So this is a better version of what had been done before, which is you create a cup-shaped grinding die, and you take a piece of glass, and you just kind of spin it until it kind of works out. But if there's any imperfections in there, and any imperfections in here, it eventually doesn't make a very nice lens. However, if you're constantly swinging back and forth while rotating, you're getting double degrees of motion in how that lens is being ground, and therefore you get better lenses. So the type of lenses that were capable of being made were, and I'll read the list here because this is a lot: spherical, spheroidal, cylindrical, toroidal, parabolic, hyperbolic, and plano-convex surfaces. So a single machine, and just look at the details as well in the pattern drawings, the different types of materials, all of the different labeled figures and things, which really, you know, shows obviously their dedication to the work that they were doing. And yeah, so this eventually became quite the standard for working with lenses, and then obviously gets pretty quickly fixed on, iterated on, and all that sort of stuff. But from the 1920s, a better version of doing that, and that, you know, it helps in so many different other industries. Having better lenses makes better cameras, it makes better binoculars, it makes better glasses, it makes everything just a lot nicer for people to work with. So, I mean, there we are. G'day there, folks, and welcome back to Pattern Corner. Now, question for the class today: when do you think we started perfecting the electric vehicle? The 90s? Yeah, you'd be correct. The 1890s. Now, what we're looking at today is an 1895 patent for the Baker electrically propelled vehicle. Now, this is a 3-wheeled design, and a very, very popular one around that turn of the century. We've got quality batteries, quality motors made of electrical copper coilings, and driven by a tiller at the front like an old boat. Eventually, these get the cab up the top like a proper nice old carriage, and are popular daily drivers around the 1910s. Now, yes, they were in the 1890s and the 1910s. Now, obviously, electric vehicles did not remain in popularity as diesel and petrol and steam cars, which we'll take a look at in a future episode, went out of fashion. But something to think about. With the quality that they had at the time, the well-made motors with their copper coils and the batteries, and a simple design that was based on just electrifying an already existing design of vehicle, i.e. the carriage, these were capable of travelling up to 60 k's an hour, up to 100 k's in a day, could be recharged overnight. In fact, most of the electric car companies at the time would rent them out. They were the earliest rental vehicles. You'd take them out for the day, take them back to the stables, and they would be recharged. Now, they fell out of fashion, and we're not as popular as the easy-to-start diesel and petrol cars with the electric starters within them, which made them a lot easier and less liable to break a hand when you're cranking them to start up. Now, it's something to think about, I think. If we were capable of doing this 100 and almost 30 years ago now, what could we do as people with the same level of technology that we have accessible to us daily? I mean, we've got our golf buggies and all that sort of stuff that all runs on electricity. But I think it's a fun thought experiment to know that the Victorians, basically, the early Edwardians, were capable of creating electric vehicles with enough torque they could go up hills and travel long distances, and that they were made with such quality that a lot of them survived. If they were taken well care of and not allowed to rust and rot apart in the general way of things, they survived well into, like, our modern times now. There are 130-year-old cars driving around based on that electric design, which is cool. I find that very, very cool. And I think, you know, with our modern technologies, our abilities to put things together, making something like this shouldn't be too hard. So perhaps if you live in a rural area or you have access to the equipment necessary to make things, but not necessarily the ease of access to buy a new car or in petrol stations or something, and you really want to challenge yourself, it might be a project. I see a lot of people building vintage cars out there, building kits, building vintage steam engines even. But I've never seen someone build a vintage electric car, and I think that's a pretty fun challenge. So, as we go into the future, I will continue to show you interesting patents such as these, and will be very, very, very happy to have you along for the process, to share inventions that I've come across that are maybe not in fashion anymore, or that couldn't have been done at the time but absolutely could now with our modern technology, or things that just show an interesting change in history. So, if you're happy to come along for the ride, follow, and we'll be showing a lot more here at Patent Corner. Thank you very much for watching, and follow along. See ya.